Welcome to the Real Horror Stories channel. This channel is based on the real horror stories which is shared by our viewers. First story shared by Kuldeep from India. Kuldeep said he liked to real paranormal stories on internet, and this story he read somewhere on internet which is shared by a man named Nishant. Nishant said this is a true story, so pay heed. And no, I am not joking about this. It so happened that I with my 4 friends were going to Chandigarh from Manali. The hotel reservation was complete and we decided to drive through the night to be able to check in early morning. We were nearing Chandigarh border at around 3 in the night and were on a mountain road. Turns and bends. Suddenly we noticed a white Corolla Altis parked on the cliffside of the road, parking lights and blinkers on, and a girl next to her, in a pretty pink top and jeans, calling for lift from us. There began murmurs in the car whether to give her about if we should stop and help her or not. 3 were in favor, 1 was strongly against, saying he has some bad feeling and all. I slowed the car near her and pulled down the mirror when my friend shouted, "Drive bro, don't fucking stop." I pushed the accelerator without thinking again. As we crossed her, the car got filled with some strong rosy fragrance she was wearing. We had came around 3 to 4 kms ahead when there started a debate in the car that we shouldn't leave a girl alone like that. We should help. All ethics and moral talks. I was thinking about taking a U-turn just when I saw something at some distance ahead. As we neared it, we saw it was the same car, same girl, same pink top and jeans calling for lift. We were white with fear. I just raced the car like anything. Nobody said anything for the rest of the journey. We passed the car and girl 3 times. Finally we entered Chandigarh and stopped at the first dhaba. We were still realizing what had happened, and I ordered beer as we all began splashing large amount of water on our faces and head. The truck drivers sitting there asked what the matter was, and we told them. They showed us the Punjab Kesari, a famous newspaper there, which had a news item reporting how a Delhi-based 21-year-old woman had an accident and her car went down the cliff. The car and the girl were the same. Second story also shared by Kuldeep. He said he read it on internet. This story was shared by Lady Lycan on one Paranormal Stories website. My name is Amber and I'm almost 22 years old. I have always been a firm believer in ghosts, but was never a believer in evil entities. So the first time I saw a shadow being, I thought it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. It was the spring of 2007 when the first encounter occurred. I was working on a short story for my high school science fiction class when I suddenly felt like something in the room had changed. Something wasn't right. I couldn't detect anything, so I just shrugged it off as having an overactive imagination and went back to writing. Again the feeling came back and I was overwhelmed with dread, so I turned around, looking all around the room, and that's when I noticed it. Huddling in the corner, it was black, short, no distinct features really. I saw it reach its hands out and I screamed at it to go away, and it sank into the other shadows in the room. Shadows that were obviously made by the light shining on objects. That was my first encounter with the shadow beings. The second encounter occurred about 2 years later. It was a bright sunny day in summer. I was in bed with the fan on, trying to beat the heat. I decided to call up my friend Katie because I was bored and wanted someone to talk to. Our conversation didn't last long because she had to get ready for work, so there I was again, with nothing to do. I was about to reach for a book when I noticed something near my window. I thought it might be a kid blocking the window, but this thing, it seemed to have materialized out of nowhere. It was like a giant blob, with no form. At the blink of an eye it was just gone. It had me running out of my room in fear, and I definitely didn't sleep in there for quite a while. My last encounter occurred months before I moved into my own place. I was watching TV in the dark upstairs, a horror movie of course. I had to pause the movie because it suddenly became chilly in the living room, and I went to grab a pillow and blanket, wanting to keep warm and also deciding that I would sleep upstairs that evening. Some comfort thing that I've had since a kid after I've watched a horror movie. It makes me feel safe knowing that my parents are in the next room. Well, when I came back upstairs, I noticed that there was something huddled in the corner. I thought it was my sister Santana because she always made her way upstairs to the living room because she thought her room was too cold to sleep in. As I approached the corner, I realized it wasn't here, but one of the shadow beings that I had seen before. As quickly as I noticed it wasn't my sister, it had disappeared, as if evaporating. These shadow beings are not just a figment of my imagination. They're not my eyes playing tricks on me because of the way the room is lit. The shadows are pure black and look as if they could be solid. Sometimes they take the shape of a human, sometimes they are shapeless, or at least in my experience with them that's what has happened. I don't know why it targeted me to be the one able to see it, or where it even came from, and if it's still in that house. My whole family moved away and I'm in an apartment on the opposite side of town, with no shadow being encounters for at least 9 months. I do know that my mind was telling me that this thing was evil and something bad would happen if I stayed there with my family any longer, so I immediately began searching for an apartment after the last encounter, finally feeling free once moving into my own place. I was and still am glad to be free of whatever it was that was haunting me. Third story was also shared by Kuldeep, which he read from internet. Kuldeep said actual story was shared by Rachel from United States. Rachel said this happened a few days ago at my workplace. I was working this opening shift with the same coworker I always do. I got there first and went into the break room to put my stuff down. As I was putting my bag down on the table, I started to get this distinct feeling that I wasn't alone. Not necessarily being watched, just that I wasn't alone. Then, I started hearing 2 voices outside the room, a man and a woman. There's a really loud fan in this particular room just off the break room, so I couldn't really hear what they were saying. It sounded like indistinct whispering. I assumed it was just maintenance personnel, but I went to look anyway. There was no one there. I went back into the break room to finish getting settled, still feeling like I wasn't alone. Then, I heard some loud banging noises like an animal in the vent above me. I was so startled I ran out of the break room. The noises stopped, and I went back inside. This is a noise that my coworker and I have heard several times and reported several times, but they haven't been able to find an animal or another reason for it. I finished up in the break room and started getting set up for work. As I was preparing some things, I felt like I was being watched and like there was an actual presence in the room with me. My coworker showed up and we got to work, and there were 2 patrons in the room with us, but I still couldn't shake the feeling of there being a 5th presence. Then, one of the patrons just stopped doing what she was doing, focused on something all the way on the opposite side of the room, waved, and said, "Hi." I looked at the spot she was looking at, and there was no one there. My coworker turned to me and said, "What was that?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't see anyone there." This is not the first time strange things have happened at my workplace, and I'm not really sure what to make of it. If you have any horror stories, you can share it in comment, or you can also mail us at our email, which is in description.